I sat at the kitchen table, fingers tapping anxiously against the cold, smooth surface. The glow of my laptop screen bathed the room in a pale blue light as I stared at the clock for what felt like the 100th time. It was already past 1 a.m., and Emily still had not come home. Earlier that evening, she had slipped out the front door with a sly wink and a quick, "Just a couple drinks with the girls, babe. I won't be long." I barely looked up from my laptop, lost in the middle of finishing up some last-minute work. I knew Emily. She had that carefree attitude, full of confidence and sass. She did things her way. Her plans for the night came up last minute, and honestly, I figured it was just one of those impulsive girls' night out things. No big deal. But here I was, long past midnight, feeling the quiet anger simmering inside me. She had not called. She had not texted. Nothing. The only thing breaking the silence was the faint hum of the fridge and the occasional distant sound of traffic outside. My mind was running wild with thoughts. Was she okay? Why had she not at least sent a message? Suddenly, her phone rang. My eyes flicked to the counter where she had left it charging. I had almost forgotten it was there. The screen lit up, displaying the name Josh. I did not recognize the name, and something inside me twisted uncomfortably. Who the hell was Josh? I hesitated, torn between picking up and ignoring it. My instinct screamed at me to answer, but instead, I let it ring until it stopped. Moments later, the phone buzzed with a notification. A message popped up. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again." My heart skipped a beat as my stomach churned. What the hell was going on? Before I could even process that, another message lit up the screen. "Is your boyfriend home tonight? Or can we have round two?" Rage hit me like a freight train, knocking the air right out of me. This was no innocent night out. Something was seriously wrong, and I was about to find out exactly what. My mind raced through a million scenarios as I grabbed my keys and bolted out the door. I was done waiting. It was time to get some answers. The night air hit me like a slap in the face as I stepped outside. The cool breeze did nothing to calm the storm brewing inside me. I jumped into my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My mind raced as I tried to figure out where she might be. The phone in my pocket buzzed again. Another message from Josh, probably, but I could not bring myself to look. Not yet. I had to focus. Where the hell could she be? Then it hit me. Emily had mentioned a bar a few times, a place called the Rusty Nail. It was some dive her friend liked to go to, a spot where they could relax and unwind. My gut told me that this was not just some innocent night out. The messages on her phone said it all. This was something much worse. The drive felt longer than it actually was, my heart pounding harder with every passing mile. The streets were mostly empty at this hour, only a few stray cars rolling by under the dull glow of streetlights. I could not shake the images flashing in my mind. Emily, laughing with some guy, doing God knows what while I sat at home like an idiot. As I pulled up to the bar, I felt a sickening mix of adrenaline and dread. The neon sign flickered above the entrance, casting an eerie red glow across the parking lot. It was busy for a weeknight, cars crammed into every spot, music thumping faintly through the walls. And there, tucked in the back like it was hiding, was Emily's car. My chest tightened. This was it. She was here. I stepped out of the car, my legs stiff with tension as I walked toward the entrance. My pulse pounded in my ears, drowning out the noise of the bar as I shoved the door open. Inside, the place was packed, people crowding the bar, laughing, dancing, completely unaware of the turmoil boiling inside me. I scanned the room, heart racing, until my eyes locked on her. There she was, Emily, sitting at the bar with her back to me, leaning into some guy. He was too close, his hand resting casually on her thigh as she giggled at something he said. Josh. It had to be him. My stomach lurched, a cold wave of betrayal washing over me. For a second, I could not move, frozen by the sight of them. It was as if everything around me faded away. The music, the people, all of it drowned out by the roaring in my ears. The world had stopped, and all I could focus on was them. I pushed through the crowd, my breath coming in short, ragged gasps. My anger was a living thing, clawing its way to the surface, and I was not sure how long I could hold it back. My vision tunneled as I closed the distance between us. Emily still had not noticed me, too caught up in her little world with Josh, her hand resting on his arm, laughing like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. I stormed toward them, my heart hammering in my chest. Every step I took fueled the anger burning inside me. I was not thinking straight. I just knew I had to stop this, right now. When I reached them, I did not hesitate. My hand landed hard on Emily's shoulder, spinning her around. Her laughter died instantly, replaced by a look of pure shock. Her eyes went wide, like she had just seen a ghost. For a second, she blinked, trying to process what was happening. It was almost funny, how clueless she looked. "Jake?" she stammered, clearly caught off guard. Her voice was shaky, unsure. I did not even let her finish. "What the hell is going on?" I growled, my voice louder than I had intended. People nearby started to glance our way, but I did not care. Let them watch. This was not some private drama anymore. This was betrayal, out in the open. Emily's face flushed, but not from guilt. No, it was something else. Annoyance, maybe. She was not sorry, not even close. "Jake, relax," she said, her voice dripping with fake calm. "It's not what you think. Not what I think." I snapped, my fists clenching by my sides. I could feel my blood boiling under my skin, the rage rising with every word she spoke. I saw the texts, "Emily, I know everything." I pointed at the guy sitting next to her, who was now grinning like he was enjoying this. "Is this Josh?" The guy leaned back in his seat, giving me a cocky smirk. He did not even bother to take his hand off her leg. "Yeah, that's me," he said casually, like he was proud of it. That was it. My patience snapped like a brittle twig. Before I knew it, my fist connected with his jaw, sending a shock wave of pain up my arm. The sound of the impact echoed in the bar, and for a moment, everything seemed to freeze. Josh stumbled back, crashing into the bar stool, his smug expression wiped clean from his face. "Jake, stop," Emily shouted, finally jumping to her feet. Her voice was sharp now, but it was not fear I heard. No, it was more like frustration, like I was the one out of line here. I barely heard her. My focus was locked on Josh, who was wiping blood from his split lip. He looked up at me with a dazed expression, but that grin was still there, faint but unmistakable. "Really, man," he said, spitting blood onto the floor. "Over her." Those two words hit me harder than any punch. Over her. As if Emily did not matter, as if this whole thing was just a game. I turned to look at her, my chest heaving with the effort it took to keep my anger in check. "Tell me the truth," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I could feel the tremble beneath it, the anger and pain mixing together. "How long has this been going on?" Emily crossed her arms, her expression hardening. For a second, I thought I saw something. Maybe guilt, maybe regret, but it disappeared just as quickly. "Does it really matter?" she said, her voice icy cold. "You want the truth? Fine. It has been months." Her words cut through me like a knife. Months. My mind reeled, trying to grasp what she had just said. All that time, all those nights when I trusted her, she had been with him. It was like the ground had opened up beneath me, and I was free falling into some endless, dark abyss. Her words hung in the air, suffocating me with their weight. Months. That one word twisted my gut into knots. I felt like the floor had been yanked out from under me, leaving me suspended in a moment that stretched endlessly. How could she say it so casually, like it meant nothing? Why? The words slipped out before I even knew what I was saying. My voice sounded weak, almost pathetic, and I hated myself for asking. I should have been walking out the door by now, leaving her and this whole mess behind. But I needed to know. I needed to understand what I had done wrong. Emily sighed, like this whole situation was just a mild inconvenience for her. "Come on, Jake," she said, her voice dripping with boredom. "You are so predictable. You are always working, always in your own little world." I needed something exciting, exciting. The words slammed into me like a punch to the gut. All those nights she had been out, all those times she had stayed late, and I had given her the benefit of the doubt. She had been chasing excitement, while I had been at home, clueless, thinking we were building a life together. I looked at Josh, who was now leaning back against the bar, dabbing his lip with a napkin. He was still smirking, like none of this mattered. My blood boiled at the sight of him, but I forced myself to turn back to Emily. Exciting? I echoed, my voice low and dangerous. You ruined everything we had for excitement? You threw away our whole marriage for this? I gestured toward Josh, who raised his eyebrows, still acting like he had won some kind of twisted game. Emily shrugged, the casualness of her response stinging more than anything else. It is not like I planned it, Jake. It just happened. We got comfortable. Maybe you didn't notice. Or maybe you didn't care. Her words stung, but there was no regret in them. No apology. She was not sorry. She was not even trying to be. I felt my fists clenching again, my nails digging into my palms as I tried to hold back the fury building inside me. Comfortable? I repeated, my voice rising. So your solution was to crawl into someone else's bed? Emily rolled her eyes like I was being overdramatic. Calm down, Jake. This does not have to be the end of the world. That was when it hit me. She did not care. Not about me, not about our marriage, not about anything. This was not a mistake to her. It was not even a regret. She had been living this double life for months, and now that it was out in the open, she just wanted me to roll over and accept it. The anger that had been boiling inside me began to cool, replaced by something colder, something final. I was done. There was nothing left to fight for, nothing left to salvage. This was not a marriage anymore. It was just wreckage. You want excitement, Emily? I said, my voice steady now, calm in a way that surprised even me. Fine. Have it. You are free. Go ahead, run around with your new toy. I am done. For a moment, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Maybe surprise, maybe fear. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by that same cold indifference. She crossed her arms and raised an eyebrow, as if daring me to walk out. Josh stood up from his seat, brushing himself off like he was ready to make his exit from this little drama. I think I'll get out of here, he said, giving Emily a quick pat on the shoulder. Good luck, man, he added, smirking at me as he disappeared into the crowd. I watched him go, feeling the last pieces of my old life crumbling away. Emily stood there, arms still crossed, her expression hard as stone. You act like you are the victim here, she said, her voice full of contempt. Like you did everything right and I am just the villain. But you were not perfect, Jake. You checked out a long time ago. Her words hit me like a slap. Checked out? I had been busting my ass, trying to hold everything together while she was out screwing around. But in that moment, I realized it did not matter. Nothing she said mattered anymore. Maybe, I said quietly, my voice calm now. Maybe I did not see it coming. But I see it now. I turned and walked out of the bar, leaving her standing there alone. The cool night air hit me hard as I stepped out of the bar, but it was a relief compared to the suffocating tension inside. I felt hollow, like I had left part of myself back there. My mind raced as I crossed the parking lot to my car. What now? Where do I even go from here? I climbed into the driver's seat and slammed the door, the sound echoing in the silence of the empty lot. I did not start the engine right away. Instead, I sat there, gripping the steering wheel with trembling hands, trying to process what had just happened. The anger that had been raging inside me had cooled, but it left behind a gaping void. I was not just mad anymore. I was broken. 6 years. 6 years of marriage, of building a life together, of trust, shattered in one night. I had known something was off for a while. The late nights, the girls' trips, the way she had started pulling away. But I had never imagined it would end like this. Not in a million years. My phone buzzed in the passenger seat, snapping me out of my thoughts. I glanced down at the screen. Another message from Emily. I hesitated, my stomach twisting as I picked up the phone. What could she possibly have to say now? I opened the message and felt a fresh surge of anger rise up inside me. You are overreacting. We could have worked this out, but you had to go and ruin it. Maybe if you had put this much effort into our marriage, I would not have needed Josh. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding in my chest. She was still blaming me. After everything, she still had the audacity to act like I was the problem, like I was the reason she had cheated. The rage bubbled up again, and my fingers shook as I typed a quick response. "You are unbelievable. Do not text me again." I hit send and tossed the phone onto the passenger seat, the weight of her betrayal sinking deeper into my bones. I felt trapped, like I was suffocating under the weight of everything that had just happened. But there was nothing left to say, nothing left to do but leave it all behind. I finally turned the key in the ignition, the engine roaring to life. I sat there for a moment, listening to the steady hum of the car, letting it drown out the noise in my head. Then, without thinking, I pulled out of the parking lot and hit the gas. I did not know where I was going. I just needed to drive. Away from that bar. Away from Emily. Away from the wreckage of everything we had built. The streets were empty as I sped down the road, the city lights blurring past me. My mind was racing just as fast, playing the scene in the bar over and over. Her sitting there with him, laughing like nothing was wrong. Her cold, indifferent expression as she told me the truth, like it was no big deal. How had I been so blind? How had I let this happen? The pain started to creep up on me, slowly at first, then building until it was clawing at my chest. It hurt worse than the anger. Anger was something I could use, something that kept me going. But this was different. This was the kind of pain that sits deep in your bones, the kind that does not let go. I felt it tightening in my chest, threatening to break through the wall I had tried so hard to hold up. I did not know where I was headed, and I did not care. I just kept driving, hoping the road would take me far enough away from everything that I could finally breathe again. But no matter how fast I went, the pain stayed with me, gnawing at me from the inside. I kept driving, not really paying attention to where I was going. The streets were dark and mostly deserted, just a few headlights cutting through the night. It was like the whole world was asleep, but I was wide awake, drowning in thoughts I could not control. The pain of it all, Emily's betrayal, the months of lies, hung heavy on me, and no amount of speeding down empty streets could shake it. Eventually, I found myself pulling into a random parking lot. It was empty, save for a couple of cars that looked like they had been there for days. I parked, but I did not get out. Instead, I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel so hard my hands hurt, staring out into the dark. What the hell had just happened to my life? The anger that had fueled me earlier was gone now, replaced by a crushing sadness that I could not shake. I felt pathetic, sitting there, reeling from the fact that the person I had trusted most in the world had been betraying me for months. And not just with anyone. With that smug, grinning prick I had just punched in the face. The image of them together, her laughing, him touching her, kept flashing in my mind like a broken reel of film. Every time I thought I could get a grip on myself, it would pop back up, and the pain would hit me all over again. I slammed my fist into the steering wheel, the sharp jolt of pain momentarily breaking through the numbness. I hit it again, harder this time, the shockwave running up my arm. It did not help. Nothing would help. I felt like I had lost everything in a matter of minutes. Before I knew it, the anger, the frustration, the sadness, it all came pouring out. I hit the dashboard, the steering wheel, anything within reach, the car shaking with each blow. I yelled, screamed, really, at the top of my lungs, not caring if anyone heard. I just needed to get it out, needed to feel something other than this overwhelming emptiness. When I finally stopped, my body was shaking, my chest heaving with ragged breaths. My knuckles were sore and raw from pounding the wheel, but I did not care. The tears came next, fast and unstoppable. I tried to hold them back, tried to keep it together, but I could not. I had never felt so alone in my life. I sat there, forehead pressed against the steering wheel, the sobs racking my body. I had given Emily everything, my love, my trust, 6 years of my life, and she had tossed it all aside like it meant nothing. All the signs had been there, but I had been too blind to see them. Or maybe I just did not want to see them. Maybe deep down, I had known something was wrong but was too scared to face it. The tears finally slowed, but the pain remained, gnawing at me from the inside. I knew, sitting there in the darkness of that empty parking lot, that nothing would ever be the same. The life I thought I had, the future I thought we were building together, it was gone, destroyed. And the worst part? I had no idea what to do next. I glanced at my phone, still sitting on the passenger seat. Part of me wanted to call someone, anyone, but I knew there was no one who could fix this. No one could give me back what I had lost. No one could make this pain go away. But then a thought crossed my mind, one that I had been avoiding all night. There was one thing I could do, one step I could take to start picking up the pieces of my shattered life. Divorce. The word felt heavy in my mind, but it was the only way forward. There was no saving this, no fixing the wreckage Emily had left behind. She did not care about me. She did not care about us. She wanted excitement, thrills, and I was just in her way. I picked up my phone and stared at the screen for a long moment. My lawyer's number was saved in my contacts. All I had to do was make the call. It would make everything real. There would be no going back after that. But there was no going back anyway. Was there? Taking a deep breath, I dialed the number and left a voicemail. My voice was steady, almost robotic, as I explained the situation. I asked about starting the paperwork. It felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. But I knew it had to be done. When I hung up, I felt a strange sense of relief. It was over. It was really over. For the first time in months, I felt like I was taking control of my life again. No more lies, no more betrayal. Just me, moving forward, without her. The drive back to the house was different. The rage and panic that had been coursing through me earlier were gone, replaced by a cold clarity. There was no more guessing, no more wondering what she was up to. I had the truth now, and with it came the certainty that everything between us was over. I was not going back to the life we had, and honestly, I did not want to. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked the same as it always did, quiet and unassuming. But it did not feel like home anymore. It was just a shell, a place where all the memories we had built together now felt tainted, poisoned by the lies and betrayal that had been happening right under my nose. I stepped inside, the silence of the house wrapping around me. I did not bother turning on the lights. I moved through the rooms like a stranger, not lingering on any of the photos or mementos that once held so much meaning. Everything about this place reminded me of the life I thought I had, and I could not stand to be here any longer than I had to. I headed straight for the bedroom, grabbing a suitcase from the closet and throwing in clothes, toiletries, anything I might need for the next few days. I moved quickly, not caring if I left something behind. I would come back later for the rest, but for now, I just needed to get out. As I packed, my mind kept circling back to Emily. How had we gotten here? How had she gone from the woman I loved, the woman I trusted with everything, to someone who could lie so easily? The answer did not matter anymore. I had stopped asking why. There was no explanation that would make this right. Once my suitcase was packed, I grabbed my phone from the kitchen counter, where I had left it earlier. Her phone was still sitting there, charging in the same spot. I stared at it for a moment, wondering if she had come home and would see it there, knowing everything was slipping out of her control. I almost laughed at the thought. I found a piece of paper and scribbled a quick note, just 2 words that said everything I needed to say. It is over. I left the note on the counter next to her phone. No long explanations, no emotional goodbyes. She did not deserve any of that. I was done playing her game, done with her manipulative excuses and empty promises. This was my final move. I took one last look around the house, then walked out the door. I did not look back as I loaded my suitcase into the car and drove away. The weight that had been crushing my chest all night began to lift, little by little, with each passing mile. For the first time in what felt like forever, I could breathe. I did not know where I was headed, maybe to a hotel, maybe to crash with a friend, but for once, I did not care. The future was wide open, and for the first time in a long time, it was mine to decide. As I drove, I realized I had learned something through all of this. Trust is not something you give away easily. It is fragile, and once it is broken, there is no fixing it. People will take advantage of that trust, twist it, and destroy it if you let them. But I also learned that I was stronger than this, stronger than her betrayal, stronger than the wreckage she had left behind. This would not define me. I would not let it. So, to anyone who has been through something like this, let go. Do not wait for answers that will never satisfy you. Do not hold on to someone who does not care about you. Walk away before it destroys you completely. I did, and for the first time in months, I was finally free.